It was just another ordinary night shift at Five Guys. The kind of night where the fries sizzle endlessly and the faint smell of grilled beef hangs heavy in the air. But for Daniel, a 19-year-old college kid working late for extra cash, this night would twist into something he'd never forget. It started around 10:45 p.m., 15 minutes before closing. A man walked in, tall, thin, wearing a torn grey hoodie. His face was hidden beneath a shadow, and his hands shook slightly as he slid a crumpled 20 across the counter. "Just fries," he whispered. "No burger, no drink, just fries." Daniel rang it up, trying to be polite, but something about the man's trembling voice made the back of his neck tighten. When Daniel turned to bag the fries, he noticed in the reflection of the fry machine's chrome surface, the man wasn't standing at the counter anymore. He was behind it. Daniel froze. The man stood just inches behind him, staring directly at the sizzling oil. "I used to work here," he muttered, "in this exact spot, before the fire." Daniel blinked, confused. "What fire?" he asked, but before he could get an answer, the man vanished into thin air. The bag of fries hit the floor, and the air smelled of burnt grease and smoke, even though the grill was off. The next morning, Daniel's manager told him something that made his blood run cold 5 years ago. A grease fire had killed an employee in that same kitchen. His name? Daniel. The second story comes from a Five Guys located just outside Chicago. It was a snowy winter evening, and the closing crew, Alyssa, Mark, and Tony, were cleaning up after a slow night. The wind outside howled against the windows, and the neon sign flickered. Suddenly, the power went out. Only the emergency lights remained, dim and red. Tony joked nervously, "Guess the ghost wants a burger." They all laughed, but the laughter faded fast when they heard something slam in the walk-in freezer. Alyssa went to check, her breath fogging in the cold air as she opened the heavy metal door. Inside, there were footprints. Bare footprints. Fresh, wet, and leading toward the back of the freezer. She followed them cautiously until she noticed something on the wall, written in frost, were the words, "Don't lock me in again." Alyssa screamed and ran out. The others rushed to help, but when they looked, the words had melted away. The next morning, they learned that years ago, an employee had been accidentally trapped in that same freezer overnight during a snowstorm. He froze to death before anyone found him. The strangest part, on that same night, every winter, the freezer door jams, no matter how many times it's replaced. The third story happened in Florida during a summer night shift. Kevin, the manager, was doing inventory while the restaurant was empty. The doors were locked, lights dimmed, and he was alone, or so he thought. The sound of the milkshake machine suddenly turned on by itself, whirring loudly. Kevin turned, annoyed, thinking maybe the switch shorted. But when he got closer, he saw it wasn't the machine, it was blending nothing. The cup inside was empty, spinning furiously. Then, a voice came from behind him, soft and raspy. "You forgot my order." He spun around. No one. The headset from the drive-thru flickered with static. A distorted voice whispered, "Extra ketchup, no pickles." Kevin's hands shook as he turned off the headset, but the order printer began spitting out dozens of blank receipts. On each one, written in faint red ink, was the same line, "I'm still waiting." Panicking, Kevin unplugged everything and ran for the door, but the doors wouldn't open. Through the glass, he could see a faint outline of a man standing in the parking lot, drenched from head to toe, staring right at him. Later, the police found Kevin outside, unconscious. Security footage showed something even stranger. Kevin wasn't alone in that building. For 5 minutes, a shadow figure stood right behind him at the register, even though the door never opened once. They say fast food restaurants see thousands of faces every day, some hungry, some tired, and some that never leave. So next time you're grabbing a late-night burger or fries, take a moment to look around. Listen closely, because the sound of sizzling oil might not be the fryer at all. It could be something or someone trying to remind you they're still here. Sometimes, the scariest part isn't the ghost you see, but the feeling that one is standing right behind you. After the Florida incident, other Five Guys employees across different states began reporting strange occurrences, machines turning on by themselves, voices calling names over the headset when the restaurant was empty, and orders appearing on the digital screen that no one placed. A franchise manager in Ohio claimed he got a late-night call from one of his stores. The caller ID showed the restaurant's number, but when he answered, all he heard was the faint crackling sound of oil frying and a whisper repeating the words, "Order up." When police checked the location, the store was locked tight, the lights off, and the fryers cold. But the smell of hot grease filled the air, strong enough to make one officer vomit. It's said that restaurants like Five Guys are built on stories, some about success, others buried beneath grease-stained tiles and forgotten names. A night janitor once reported seeing handprints appear on the stainless steel counters as he wiped them down, small, wet and red, vanishing just as quickly as they appeared. In another location, a young girl waiting for her mother to finish work kept telling people she saw the man with no eyes in the kitchen window, watching her from the reflection. Everyone thought she was imagining things until one night, she screamed so loudly the neighbors called 911. When her mother ran to her, the window glass was cracked, and the reflection showed an empty dining area, but a man's outline was still faintly visible in the shattered surface. And maybe that's the curse of the night shift, the silence between the grill's hiss and the buzz of the fluorescent lights. Because in that silence, when your mind begins to drift and your eyes grow heavy, something else might be watching, something that never clocks out. Every worker who's spent enough time alone after midnight knows the feeling, the soft sound of footsteps when no one's there. The flickering light above the fryer, the cold spot that appears near the storage door. You can tell yourself it's just your imagination, just exhaustion, but deep down you know the truth. These stories aren't just tales, they're warnings. Because when the lights dim and the last burger's been flipped, Five Guys doesn't really close. Some customers never leave. And maybe that's the part no one ever talks about, the way these places seem to breathe after midnight, as if the walls themselves remember every scream, every accident, every name shouted into the void of a closing shift. Some employees say if you stay long enough, the restaurant starts to whisper back, calling your name through the hiss of the fryer or humming softly from the soda machine when the power's off. One former worker swore he saw his own reflection blink at him from the grill top, even though he hadn't moved an inch. Another said he heard the faint sound of laughter coming from the back room, long after everyone had gone home. Whether it's the restless spirits of those who died there, or just the weight of too many years soaked into the concrete and grease, no one really knows. But one thing's certain: when the clock hits midnight and the red glow of the sign outside flickers one last time, Five Guys becomes something else. A place where time stands still and the dead are still hungry.